Are You OK Day aims to equip Australians with the skills and confidence to support those struggling with life, and it is an initiative with close personal ties to Waverley College. The ongoing grief resulting from his own father's suicide motivated Gavin Larkin to begin the Are You OK movement in 2009. 1 year later, Gavin was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma. His son Gus was very soon after also diagnosed with cancer. Gus Larkin was a student here at Waverley College, and his passion for life and Are You OK inspired our whole community to champion this important cause. Gavin Larkin passed away in 2011, and Gus 2 years later in 2013 when he was in Year 9. His death had a profound impact on us all. Among Gus's classmates were Lachlan Drew Morris and Pat Clifton, who along with fellow Waverley old boy Luca Moretti were also inspired to raise awareness of mental health. They started Turn Up the Talk, a podcast where they interview elite athletes about their own mental health journeys. We caught up with them to talk about their own journey through loss and depression and what prompted them to help others. We also spoke to Marianne and Josie Larkin about their extraordinary story of resilience and the importance of looking out for each other's mental health.
Well, I think most of the Waverley community are aware of the Larkin family and what struggles we've had, and Gavin's illness and the fact that he set up Are You OK and worked so hard on that during his sickness. And Gus was along for all of that journey, wasn't he, Josie? He was aware of what his dad was doing and how important that was. So when Gavin died in 2011, Gus, I think, felt like it was a great thing for him to be proud of, for one, and also to keep the Waverley College community involved in. And Waverley's been so wonderful in that way, supporting Gus and supporting our family. And Are You OK has become so important in the community, as we all know, even with some of the old boys such as Lockie and Pat and Luca taking on the same message. That was really the beginning of his idea for Are You OK, was that he didn't want anyone else to suffer like he had suffered, like his brothers had suffered, and also like his dad had suffered. He didn't realise that he was in such a bad place, and perhaps a conversation or a real mate or something in his life could have helped him.
This is the house that built Are You OK?
Yeah.
With the tagline this year, the theme of it being there's more to say after Are You OK, it's encouraging the fact that, you know, it's a never-ending journey with someone's mental health or mental illness. And so it's just about making sure that, you know, once you've had that conversation, that isn't it. You know, there's so much more to do, and there's more to like stay in tune with and everything else after the fact. Towards the end, when Dad knew that, you know, he had no control over what was happening to him, to us, he knew that he had left something that's going to leave a mark on other people.
Everyone you meet that's associated with Are You OK, like with the ambassadors and stuff, is so passionate about it. So I think that just speaks to what they're doing. And yeah, we all coached together. We've coached together for the last couple of years, and we started it because there was a lot of suicides in our area, and not in direct groups, but in like indirect groups. Like you go out and you know those people, and it hit a lot of people very hard, and a lot of people didn't know how to react.
It's scary to think that there's not as much structure and resources available for mental illness and mental health services, when if it's, you know, the number one cause of death between 15 and 44 in males, like it should probably be way more discussed.
When we started the podcast, we didn't kind of know what response we'd get, if you know what I mean. Like everyone talks about mental health, but I think for episode 0, I don't know for you guys, but for me that was like really hard to kind of come out, because it's kind of the first thing we did. I mean, and we talk about that stigma. You know, we didn't know what response we we're going to get, especially in our community.
it was great to get that reception because so many people talk about mental health, but it's like just one conversation. So you say to your mate, "Oh, I'm struggling," and they give you one word, they give you one sentence, and then it's over, and it's not over in your head, but it's over in that conversation sense. So I think when we came out with that, a few of our mates who knew we were struggling but sort of didn't know how to go about it, it was great for them because they finally understood, okay, well, this is what's going on for him, and okay, how can I help? And I think that's the platform we want to get for people. It's if you're honest with your mates, then that's how the conversation can develop.
For them to share so openly, especially athletes, because they're so vulnerable being in that position, you know what I mean? Like with social media, you see it now all the time, you know, social media players are always getting spoken about. So for them to come out and be so vulnerable in aim to help somebody else, I think is awesome, which is why we initially started this.
I know I had it when I was growing up. You know, I always talked to family counsellors and that, but I never really got the help I needed till I was maybe last year. Last year I probably got the help I needed, and I feel like I'm on the ups now. But I think just even talking to your mates, I think if you're talking to the people around you, man, it doesn't have to be a professional. Just about that network. Like everyone grows up with it. You know, everyone's got depression some days, everyone's got anxiety some days, everyone got good days and bad days. Where the bad days, I'm sure everyone has that one friend. All it takes is just one friend to be able to talk to and to let out that I'm sure you're going to get the response that you're looking for. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be 10, 12 or 19 for that matter. You know what I mean? It's just about trusting the people around you, and you feel like you can't trust them, then look somewhere else. There's still stuff going on to this day in my life that is still hard to talk about, but you know, I'll always be an open book. I always talk about my problems, and I think that's what we want to do. We want to make a change about that, about mental health, and just not this community, but you know, in this country and around the world.
The premise of Are You OK is about other people being able to check in with someone who's not feeling well, because I know with my own mental health journey and my depression, the hardest thing was coming to terms with the fact I was feeling this way. I felt like a bit of a fraud because of who my dad was, that I was like, wow, I'm telling people to have these conversations and I can't have one myself. So I wrote a note because that was the less daunting way for me to inform my mum that I was having these feelings. But it took me so long, and that's what's so scary about mental illness, is that in the beginning I thought, I'm just having these thoughts, but I'd never act on them. You know, I love my family too much, they'd miss me too much. And then when that didn't become enough for me to rationalize not making that choice, it became about my dog, you know, oh, my dog loves me so much, I love her so much, I could never leave her. And then slowly that thought wasn't enough to stop where my mind was going, and I realized it's snowballing and it's getting a bit out of hand. So that's what Are You OK is about, is catching it before it gets too late.
Looking back on it now, so my kind of, when I first went and saw someone and got to that point of I really need help, was at the beginning of last year, so about 18 months ago. And now I look back and realise growing up, I did have anxiety and I did have depression and mental health problems. Not problems, sorry, just my own mental health battles. That it was never got overly severe. So I kind of had that mentality of, you know, there's someone worse than me. You're all right, you'll get through it. And I just kind of went along that path. And it's not now that I really sit back and go, wow, you really were struggling, just not as much. And I guess it got to that boiling point. And if I had have spoken out when I was younger and got help, then I'm sure it wouldn't have got to that boiling point of this is too much now, I really have to do something. So yeah, definitely. Just looking back, I definitely did grow up with it, but again, just that stigma and you'll be right, there's someone going through a worse thing than you, just played in my mind.
I know that was Gavin's thinking, was that his idea was to start those conversations and check in with people before they get to that stage. I love that Gus's classmates and their families look after us and keep us under their wing. It's very, very special.
It feels like Gus's energy is still with us when we have
Yes.
all those families around us and
Yeah.
all his friends coming and checking in.
Yeah, it was pretty pretty confronting. Sort of knew him from year 5. And yeah, he was the happiest kid, and all he ever wanted to do was like be at school and be around everyone, and you just sort of knew that like it was just slowly eating him away. And that was probably the toughest thing to watch, because you knew what he was like. And I still remember though going around to his house. I think it was about a month before he passed away, and it was still just so full of life, so happy. And he knew, he was a very smart kid, and he knew that all he wanted was effort. Like if someone made an effort, that's all he wanted, and he cherished that from his mates. And yeah, it was the graduation was pretty tough as well.
Yeah, the
not having him
graduation
there,
was-
and I think Van got up and took his tie. That was tough to watch as well, but yeah.
I wouldn't change what's happened to us. I mean, it's made us who we were. I feel like as a family we're so strong because we've been through so much, and we have an understanding that not many people do about, you know, life and love and acceptance and gratitude and things like that. I don't know, it changes you, and I'm grateful for it, because I don't think I'd have a lot of the skills that I do today to be able to deal with change and things that I can't control.
There's a lot we can't control. That's
Yeah.
certainly one thing we've learned. When you realise how little control we have, you live a much freer life.
I remember I was going through a few things when we spoke to her, and immediately walking out of that podcast, I wasn't happy. I was sort of over everything that was in my head, because I was like, she's just put everything in perspective. Like, you lose a husband, you lose a son, and you still get up in the morning, you still look after your 2 other kids, and you still are so full of life, and everyone you meet just is so full of energy because you are, and yeah, it rubs off on everyone. The biggest thing I would have told myself was, when I was at school, was not to panic about what's going to go on in the future. Episode 0, I spoke about my own experiences with it, and I got myself into a bit of a hole with depression right after school, because I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was so caught up in these ideas of what I thought I wanted to do, but like nothing I really put my mind to in that sort of time frame I wanted to do. And the minute I sort of stopped worrying about it and just sort of let it go, and I sort of deferred from uni for a bit, and just it came to me that I've always was in my head, but I really want to be a teacher. That was great for me. So I think, and it's so pressure obviously with the HSC and things like that, and it happens every year to kids, and I just wish, they all just knew it's going to be all right. Like, you don't have to go straight into uni. Whatever you do, you're going to be great at, and I think people just need that confidence in themselves.
We all have a mental health journey, whether it be with mental illness or not. We're all on a journey with our mental health, and Are You OK has brought a sense of casualness to the opportunity to be able to talk about that with a friend without it being so daunting.
That's right. It's made us aware that we are all capable of those conversations, and we are all responsible for looking after each other.